Hi, this video is in two segments. The first segment, about 13.5 minutes, is a show and tell of an alternate journal page that I did for swap. I also show you some tags and postcards that I swapped out. The second segment is an art-along fast-forward process segment where I show you some of my thoughts and details of creating the art journal page. Okay, I have a show and tell. This is of a vintage sewing piece that I am sending to one of the people in our creative art journaling swap to make up for a page that she did not receive from somebody else. But that's a whole nother story, so we won't go into it. But I wanted to show you the finished piece. This is the front of it. Now this is a cloth doily that has cut work on it. I don't know how much you can see on it, that I'd gotten at probably garage sale several years ago. And I was in another swap and we were doing beading and enhancing a 6x6 square, and I was going to use this for that, but I got so much of it finished and decided not to use it, and I went with something else. Well, this piece has been in my stash for a couple years. And what I like about it is I have the cut work here. I have the cut work. And then I have some beads that I've attached over in here. I have some stitching that I've done. Some, this was one of those crochet rings, and I did a satin stitch over it and did different colors of threads and different stitches in here. And I was pretty happy with how it turned out, but I was having a hard time making it fit a 6x6 square, and I didn't want to cut it square. I wanted the edge to show. And I even had a hard time debating on whether to leave this edge as or to flip it over and attach it on the back side. But I decided to leave it, let it flip over like that, and then if the person who's getting it doesn't like it, she can attach it down on the back if she wants. But what I did was I colored the background of a 140-pound watercolor sheet, and then attached pattern tissue, and there's a tape measure that came from a scrapbook paper over on the edge. And then I attached this piece to the background using a stitch that I did all the way around. So, and then what I like about it is this was a flat piece that had been folded over, and it made a pocket. And I made 3 tags to fit inside of that pocket. And then on this one I had a little tatted square. I have a little plastic sack of these. I have probably maybe about 15 of them, 12 or 15, that are loose like this, and then I put them on different pieces. And these are some hook and eyes, just in an old card of hook and eyes. And this is current. This was an embellishment that I got at Michael's. And then there's a couple little metal snaps in there. On the background here, this tag came from one of my book swaps that I made when I was still doing what I call my doily technique, where I'd sprayed through a doily. And I've had this tag sitting in my stash, so I decided to use it. I covered it with a glazing first, and that's why you're kind of seeing the shine of the light off of it. The tag has a glazing medium on the front of it. The back of it is just a plain pink color. Attached a little piece of lace trim through it. I made 3 of these tags. This one is very similar, only I used a washi tape here. Here's that tatted. I have some vellum on the back in here. And then I have the hook and eyes here. This one has a button card on it. It says "Be Positive," and it has a little, I think these are industrial chic embellishments, little button card, and then I distressed around the button card. This was a little quilted diamond shaped piece that I sewed a button on and then have a little thread hanging down from it. Have lace through there. The theme of this page was supposed to be romantic steampunk for the page she was supposed to receive, but I went ahead and did it for this month's swap, which is vintage sewing. So she'll get a vintage sewing instead of a romantic steampunk page. And this is the back of the page. I have my signature block over here. Tape measure there. She'll have space in here if she wants to punch and put it inside of her journal this way. So, and then down here, this is still the pattern collage, and I had some, I have a stencil that has some text on it, and I just sprayed through there, glazed the whole thing, put, and you'll probably see this where I had put glazing medium across. I had another piece down here, and the glazing medium really wrinkled this entire piece, and so I took it off and am using this one instead, and I just put it down with score tape. Some little bits and pieces of lace, some doodling around the edges. Now the tags will fit in here, like this. Now here again, these these journal pages are journal pages. They tend to be a little bulky. If she doesn't want to put all the tags in here, she can just put 2 in, and it'll take some of the bulk away, and then maybe she can attach the other tag this way. Or she could even put all 3 tags this way in her journal and have it open up like that. Maybe she would want to add. I'm going to put my information on here. I haven't filled out my information on the tags yet. I did over here. But she could choose to do that however she wants. If she wants to keep them in this pocket, I would keep at least 1 in the pocket, because it shows that you have a pocket here. So, but and the one that I would keep in it would be the one that doesn't have the hook and eyes, because the little hooks tend to get caught on my threads, and I think that would be this one. So I would probably keep this one in my pocket here like that, and then put the other 2 like this in my journal page so that she could flip them that way. That would be fun, wouldn't it? Maybe I'll put something besides my signature here. Maybe I'll put a little sewing embellishment on this side. So in fact, I could just clip them that way for her. But I'll let her decide. I'll write a note and tell her. But for right now, they're going to go in here. So this is the finished journal page. I had a lot of fun making it. It went a lot faster than my other journal pages did. Probably because I had all this done. The finished journal page, the front of it. And as you can see, I removed 2 tags and I only kept the tag with the button card on it. And I also did not trim off the left side of the doily. I left that hanging off the side of the page. Here is the back of the page. And I attached the remaining 2 tags on the back of the page so that they will flip up, and you can see the journaling spot on the back where all the documentation about the page is recorded, and the Be Positive journaling spot. Now I have a couple of other things that I want to show you. I'm in a lot of swaps this month. I'm in a tag swap, and the theme was corsets. So this is the tag that I'm going to send out. I don't know how much of it you can see. Probably more this way. I have some kind of a French lace up here. A red and black ribbon that this comes off of a belt. Let's see if I can reach down and find that belt. No, I put it away. There was a belt that had the eyelets on it, and I took and I cut up that belt and just made a little corset. And then in the back here, I cut out a piece of fabric and cut it in the shape of a corset and attached lace around the bottoms and the top. And then I have letters, sticker letters that are puffy. Can't think of the right word for them now, but I used the Ranger medium enamel, Ranger's gloss enamel here, and I covered the letters because these were Halloween, and I didn't think Halloween was appropriate on here, but it says breathe, and then I laced it with the top of a piece of lace. I think this was attached here, and I cut it off, and then I threaded the corset, and then I kind of opened the corset so you could breathe. And attached lace to the back, and a little piece of ribbon, polka dot black and white ribbon. So this one is going to go out today or tomorrow whenever I get my swaps mailed. And then I had to make one for myself, so this was done in a similar manner. I don't think it's quite as fancy as the other one. So this tag, I did this tag in January. The background has glitter in the back. I don't know how much you can see it. It just kind of dresses it up a little bit more. This is more of just a pink. There's no glitter on the back. I put a little netting there, but it's not quite as fancy as the one I'm going to send out, but I'm going to keep it for myself. Then I have another swap that I'm in where we're making postcards for the summer, and they're supposed to be travel postcards, and I'm not traveling this summer. I'm doing staycations. So I used 5x7, and I think I have a process video where I did this. 5x7, I made 5 of them, and I used the same general landscape theme on all of them, and then I stenciled around the edge, and it's kind of like a barn in the fields, kind of like the fields of Wisconsin. So, and then on the back I did a wash with my blue ink intense blocks, and then did the stenciling again just in a pen, and just did the outline form, and then I'll put a note there and the address over here, and the stamp will go there. So I kind of wanted to show you, maybe I can just put them out here. Whoops, there goes my ink intense over here, fell. So I got 5 of them. It's kind of fun to see them all together, isn't it? This is the last time that'll happen. So, and this one is more of a rainy day, evening time. And then these others this is more of probably a mid-July where the wheat fields are starting to turn. Although there aren't a lot of wheat fields in Wisconsin, but there probably are some in southwest Wisconsin. And this is probably more indicative of the rolling green hills that you see in central Wisconsin. Up north you see a lot of pine trees. I don't live up north. So there's another with the wheat fields. And then this is kind of a mixture. Same type of thing on the back. So that is what I wanted to show you. This is the beginning of the second segment of the video. If all you wanted to see was the show and tells of the projects, now would be a good time to stop the video. The rest of the video is a fast-forward art-along where I actually create the journal page. Start out my journal page. I always started out by masking off the 8x10 area of the page that I'm going to work on. And here I'm just using some ink tints. I'm using a sepia color. I just want to get some color on my page. And then I use a text stenciling tool to apply text across the entire background of the page. Now, when I started this, I thought it was going to be the front of my page, but it ended up being the back. That's how it works in art journaling. So here I have some pieces of a Vogue pattern that I'm going to collage down. I'm using Liquitex Gel Matte Medium. I collage it down, make sure everything is nice and secure, tear off the pieces that I don't want. Then I use my heat gun to dry everything off. I'm making sure everything is nice and dry before I proceed. This is my doily piece that I'm going to attach to the page. I'm thinking that I'm going to put some 3 tags in the center of that doily. It forms a pocket, so I'm going to put tags that have been embellished with vintage sewing items inside. Here I'm picking out the different sewing items that I'm going to attach to the tags, choosing different elements, deciding where they want to go. You see I have a whole box full of vintage sewing ephemera and tools that I'm going to attach to those tags. I have buttons and hooks and eyes and tatted pieces and little quilted pieces and buttons, snaps. And then I have some vellum journaling text that I'm going to use. So here I'm actually assembling the 3 tags. On those hook and eye cards and on my button cards, I use a combination of score tape and glossy accents to attach it so it's nice and secure. I also, when I put my washi tape on the bottom, I secure that with score tape too, because I do not want that to come off later. I do that same thing at the top. Score tape and then the washi tape. Now I'm getting ready to attach the tatted piece, and I do that with a craft needle and some strong thread that I have. I sew it so that it forms a diamond on the back, and it attaches the little tatted piece at each of the 4 corners. And then at the top, I tie a little bow, and then I secure that bow with some glossy accents. And then through the center hole of the tag, I attach a lace piece. Now I'm working on the second tag. I distress a button card, figure out the placement. I add some washi tape at the bottom of the tag. I'm attaching the button card with score tape. See, it has a little price tag up in the top right hand corner of that button card. I cover that up with a little quilted piece. I'm attaching my vellum. There's the quilted piece. I attach my vellum pieces down at the bottom and attach a little lace through the center hole of the tag. Make sure everything is secure with my glossy accents. Put some washi tape on the back, secure it with score tape. Now I'm working on the third tag. I have another hook and eye card that has a little square out of the top left hand corner, and I make that up by finding a little card that has just 2 snaps on it. And then I attach it with score tape onto the tag. Now I'm going to sew the tatted piece in the same way that I did the other tag, so that it forms a diamond on the back, and then it secures each of the 4 corners of the tatted piece to the tag. Then I tie a little bow at the top, and I secure that with my glossy accents. Add a little bling to the tag and add a lace piece through the center hole, making sure that all of my tags have all of the elements nice and secure. Now I'm edging each one of my tags with black India ink of my Biggie Faber-Castell pen. I like to do that on both the front and the back of the tags because it frames them and it sets them off really nice. You can see that I'm using a page out of an old music book to do the side marks there. I'll probably be using that on another project, so no harm done. Everything gets used in art journaling. Now I have all 3 tags finished. And I'm placing them inside of my doily. This is my favorite part of the art journal pages, where I take off that masking tape. I trim everything down to size. The size of the page will be 8 by 10. Distress the edges of the page, figuring out how my doily is going to be placed, and with my tags inside there. Now I think I'm going to work on the back of the page, but it turns out to be the front of the page and the very end of the video. I'm just applying Inktense again to get color down on the page. Drying that off. Now I'm going to collage down more of this Vogue pattern tissue that I have. This goes pretty fast. I have this part down. Just get everything nice and collaged down. Continue collaging everything down across the entire part of the page, making sure everything is dry before I proceed. I start to rip off the top part of that tissue paper, and I rip off some and then I mend it. You can always mend things in art journaling. I just want tissue across everything, making sure everything is nice and dry. Then I check both sides of the paper and tested it out with the doily. I'm working on the edges of the paper. I have some scrapbook paper that looks like tape measures, and this is where I decide that what I was going to use for the back of the page I'm going to use for the front, and what I'm going to use for the front of the page I was going to use for the back. I just changed my mind mostly because of the tape measure. The colors of the tape measures go better on each side. Here I'm attaching a journal prompt and using some black gesso to paint out where I'm going to document the page. Of course, I have enough to do another tag of my black gesso, drying it off with my heat gun. Then I decide to use my white pen, my white Sigma pen, and I create some faux stitching around that journal box. And I really like how that turns out, but you'll see later when I glaze my page, my glaze completely erases all that white faux stitching that I'm doing right now. But I fix it. Everything can be fixed in art journaling to a certain point. Most of the time. Now I'm just adding some faux stitches, some faux running stitches around that vellum prompt that says some simplicity. Adding some edging my pages with my black ink. I sketch out where my doily is going to go on the front. Work with the tags. Now this is where I start to glaze my page. I glaze both the front and the back because I do not want the Inktense to bleed through the page and onto the doily. Making sure everything is nice and dry. Here's where I glaze the back, and you'll see as I glaze it completely erases all that white faux stitching around my black journaling box. It also wrinkles the simplicity quote down at the bottom, and I eventually take that off and replace it with another one. This is where I redo the stitching on the back. Where that glaze had wiped everything out, I just redraw it on there again. I do put a fixative over that after I am done so it will not get wiped out again. This black box will be where I will record all the documentation for the creation of the page. Here I'm putting a new vellum quote on the bottom because the glaze also wrinkled up the other one. Everything's fixable in art journaling. So here is the back of the page where I am adding some lace pieces, just little scrap pieces of lace that I had on hand. The front of my page after I've stitched down the doily. I did this in a zigzag V-shaped stitch. Actually, I sat out on my patio one morning and stitched this down. Nice cool summer morning. Now here's the back of the page. You can see where the stitching from the front shows the shape of that doily as I stitched it down. It shows through the back. Same shape of the doily on the front. I have a tape measure on the front of the page and on the back of the page. And I have some faux stitching around my document box and some faux stitches around the Be Positive box. I've glazed the entire back of the page and then I sprayed fixative to secure everything on the back. So I hope that you've enjoyed watching this video. If you did, please subscribe to my channel.